You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tatah. The Africa we want: unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa. Greetings. Please give me a sign if you can hear me, if you can see me, because there's just so much disorder going on with our streaming platforms the past couple of weeks. So I don't know if you can see me or if you can hear me, because I can't even see myself, which is very strange. It's so very strange. Normally I would see myself in the back office and I can see all of you commenting or joining. But currently, right now, I can see you. I can see your comments, and I want to find out if you can see me or you can hear me. Then that would already be fine. Okay, I think I have some signals. I see your comments, but do you see me? Do you hear me? Just give me a thumb up in the comment section if you can hear me. Am I loud enough? Can you see my image, my beautiful image? Okay. Thank you, Kojo. Thank you, Vincent. Thank you, Chibota. Thank you, Jonah. Thank you. Okay, fine. Yes, so greetings to all of you that are joining the Pan-African Daily TV this night or afternoon or morning, wherever you're watching us. It's been a while. I mean, the last time we came live was last Wednesday with Professor, and we had to meet again now with Professor Reverend Dr. Phillips Matthew was the last show we had on Wednesday. But before Wednesday, we had Professor James Small, and he had promised us that he was going to be live again on Saturday. And unfortunately, that did not happen due to some technical constraints. As you can see, how we are struggling to connect. Even our introductions will not actually play. I also guess it's just a technical congestion because honestly, we're streaming on more than 10 platforms. And that's the reason why I think the connection should also be slow. I think most of you would be watching me on the Pan-African Daily TV platforms, which is our YouTube channel and Facebook channel. You should really also be watching me on Joshua Maponga's page in Zimbabwe, Farmers of Thought. If that's the case, please confirm. I just want to know where you are watching us from, if our platforms are connected, because what we discovered in the past couple of months is that most of the platforms that we stream on actually are not connected. So today we are streaming on Susan Tatah's account page. If you're watching me from there, please just give in a comment. I know the back stage that I'm seeing, or in my program in the studio, I can only see the viewers or those that are watching from Pan African Daily TV Facebook page, and also from Pan African Daily TV YouTube page. But I cannot see the viewers that are watching us on International Africa Festival Tübingen Facebook page. I cannot see the viewers that are watching us from Farmers of Thought Facebook page, and I cannot see the viewers that are watching us on Dr. Susan Tatah's page. So any page that you're watching or you're connected through, if you don't mind, please kindly inbox or just drop "I'm watching from" this platform. This way, we would begin to figure out why are our streams not distributed logistically on the platforms that we are supposed to get in contact. Some of them just disconnect. Most of them are not connected because of the StreamYard programs that we're using. Be Live we used to use as well. So please, if you're watching me from any of these platforms, how did you connect? Where did you get our message? Where did you get the context to connect? I'm saying so because the other platforms actually is not, I don't share the link to those platforms, but I just connect them. So you would help us because we are beginning this week and until June and even July to communicate about the upcoming diasporas, cultural festivals that would be taking place in Europe, in the diaspora, on the continent, anywhere in the world. Pan African Daily TV is going to follow up on this event that would be showcasing the amazing, beautiful culture of the African people, particularly if the platforms are organized and hosted by Africans or friends of Africans or partners of Africans. So communities in the diaspora that celebrate the African culture, and you have upcoming events to promote the African culture, the African way of life, the African values in a positive way, all right? Not in a crazy, stupid propaganda, just to rubbish the continent, but we're talking in a civilized way, actually to showcase and to educate your communities about these platforms. Then remember, Pan African Daily TV is your media to support you in your engagement as you promote the African culture and the African continent in your own perspective areas. So we also have um, platforms that are organizing a lot of festivals this year because the season to celebrate, particularly in Europe, summer period is beginning anytime now. All right. So today I want to first of all start because they say charity begins at home, isn't it? I want to thank you all for joining. I want to thank you for always being here. You, the activists of African culture and Africans, you Pan Africans all across the Europe, you fans of Africa, okay, you educational platforms, whether you are content creators on YouTube or Facebook, you that are running the communications and the narratives about Africans, about Africa, about one Africa, about Africa unity, about African businesses, about African, anything African. Any of you that are busy with your platforms, whether you're on Instagram, whether you're on TikTok, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on whatever, all these platforms on Snapchat, please make sure you join and share your links with us in its comments because we are ready to take our people, our continent, friends of Africa, well wishers of Africa, partners of Africa to the next level. We want to support you in your engagement, whether you are a travel agency, or you are a constructor, or you are a business, or you are an entrepreneur, or you are an NGO, or you're just a local community group. You know, a lot of us come together just to celebrate our culture. Whether you are a fashionista, you're a designer that is focused on African designs and fabrics, whether you're just selling African drums or African artifacts, or you are a food vendor that you say, I specialize in selling African culinary art and kitchen, or you're just a small trader that you go around with your small business, family business from place to place just to market your products. I want to bring you the good news today. The African culture is going to be one of those sectors that will drive a lot of jobs, a lot of businesses, and a lot of money making ventures. A lot of African businesses, particularly those that are focused on culture, are going to be the next generation to create wealth and powerful business ventures if they focus on African culture. And I can guarantee you the Pan African Daily TV is going to support you, even in your own organizations. Anywhere that you are, we're going to support you. So it's not only about the Africa Festival in Germany, which I'm going to talk relatively about today, but I just want to call on all of you, promoters of the African culture of Africa. If you are struggling to bring the light into your community through this event, whether it's a conference that you're doing on Africa, whether it's just a workshop that you are doing, that you're organizing in your communities, we want to celebrate you. We want to share your event on the Pan African Daily to connect to the continentals and the diasporas. One thing that we know that we Africans do is we're so proud of our culture. Africans, we are the number one people that are so proud about our culture. Okay, that is the fact. Now, we want to take our culture to the next level to build brands and businesses around this amazing culture. We want to use our culture to be a platform where we can create a lot of jobs, we can create employment for young people, where we can brand our continent, where we can use our talent to be able to take our continent, the values of our traditions to the next level. So if you are that promoter, you are that event organizer, in your community, you're celebrating the African culture, whether you are a Caucasian or a European, and you say, I love the African culture, and I'm doing events in the name of Africa, you're welcome on the Pan African Daily, and you're welcome to connect with us, the Africa We Want international organization with branches in Europe, Africa, and the United States, to promote you. We want to support your initiative to take African culture to the next level. We don't want the African culture to be like a product that would be promoted just for other means and reasons and systems and ideologies. We want to make sure we celebrate with you our culture. That is the true meaning of international connections, intercultural empowerment through the African culture. Thank you, Chinzozo. All of you that are watching from the platforms that are signing, and I just want to thank you. So, after having said that, you know now where to address your flyers, your event on the African culture, on your event, whatever event that you'll be organizing in the diaspora, on the continent. As from today, you know the platform that would promote you, would share your content, would share your flyers and your promotional materials across the globe. Pan African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tatah is the platform. Good. So today I want to bring you the most exciting news. So we are starting on The first event of this year is the International Africa Festival in Germany, in Tübingen, the university town of Germany, located in the southern region of the Federal Republic of Germany. So this is the first event that we would start, because that's the event that I and my family started. And that's the event that has been a role model. Now today is known as the biggest platform that is known and that brings the African diasporas all around and the continentals together each year during the summer periods in Germany to celebrate nothing else but the African culture and the way of life. So today I want to talk about how you can be a participant on this global platform, on this amazing platform, on this beautiful African festival that is brought to you by African community in Germany. And this event has been taking place for more than 20 years. If you see me put the title International or 16th International African Diaspora Cultural Festival, the 16th edition is just in the city, the university town, Tübingen, Germany. But this organization and its festival has been going around the community and is known in Germany as one of the African diaspora platforms that brings the African migrant community in Germany and neighboring European countries like Austria, Switzerland, Belgium, UK, France, every year, and also with a participating audience of traders, of vendors coming all over the African country to Germany. So today I would be telling you a little bit a history about this organization and this festival. That's the first point. And the second point, I want to give you information on how you can register and participate, because now we've been getting a lot of information and emails flogging our email platform. How can I register? How can I participate? Particularly if I'm coming from Africa, what do I need? If I'm coming from diasporan countries, how do I need? What do I need to be a participant? That's the second point, how you can register and participate. The third point that we will be talking about this amazing event, it's also going to be about the criteria and the terms and conditions of participation. What is the motto of this year's event? And also we'll be talking about the highlight. For examples, we usually don't celebrate our cultural heroes at our event. In the past, we also never did it at the African Festival in Tübingen. But this year, we are going to celebrate Sheikh Anta Diop's Day in Tübingen. That is going to be one of the biggest highlights of this festival this year in a cultural parade. And the next point would be invitation letters and visas, for incomings, particularly from the continent of Africa. What are the criteria that you need to do or to fulfill to be able to get an invitation letter from the organizers? And what do you need to know about visiting the festival as coming from the continent? For instance, what are the conditions that you need to be able to apply for a visa in your country of origin? So these are the key points that I want to talk to you shortly about the 16th International African Diaspora Cultural Festival that will be taking place in Germany. Okay. And also, we would be giving some very short information about how to become a sponsor or to be a partner. But these ones will be coming in the days to come. Like I said, the Pan-African Daily TV, as you have seen, why we had to focus on culture for this year on the Pan-African Daily is because we do understand that we are rising. That is time for Africa. And we've been talking about the education of who we are. And we have understood right now for the past 2, 3 years what our scholars, our world-class educators, our teachers, our mentors have been coming on the Pan-African Daily TV for the past 3 years voluntarily, to teach us about who we are, to mentor to us, to give their opinion why they think the African culture is the essence and the first criteria for you Africans to be able to hold tight to your identity, just like every other culture. Okay? We do know, number one, Africa is the human, is the foundation or the cradle of human existence and civilization. That is written. That is a fact that we've learned from our researchers, cultural anthropologists or historians, scientists have written it, that the first human race or human species were found somewhere on the continent of Africa. So whether it is in the north or in the southern, but that's how we came to understand that there were humans apart from other forms of creature like animals or trees or plants or waters, but another erected human forms that were moving on 2 foot, not like the dinosaurs, but that could be accounted for, that were erected in a human format, came from this continent, Africa. So that's the first point, that we do understand that Africa is the cradle and the mother of nature, the mother of creation. The second point is we do understand that Africans were relocated from their continent into the different parts of the world, whether it was during slavery or even in today modern time Africa, where we know migrants for different reasons are relocating and becoming, indigenous of these communities. I mean, so we're talking about like those that are refugees. We're talking about those that came for studies. We're talking about those that came to join their family members. And so this continent African has been on the has been evolving from time immemorial. And that's also one of the things that we have known about our African culture and we have learned in the past 3 years being on the Pan-African Daily. But of course, we have been seeing the agitation and the uprising of Africans coming up from different parts of the world, whether it's in the world, in the diaspora or on the continent. Activists, promoters, educators, teachers, mentors, pro-Africans or pro-African culture or pro-African language or religion or spirituality, whatever. Content creators have been flooding the media space, taking advantage of the industrial revolution of technology to talk about nothing else but Africa, African people, African culture, African history, African food, African clothes, African. That has been exactly how we have been evolving. So we have the indigenous Africans that came through slavery. We also have the migrant communities that are relocating, whether they go to the Americans or they are in the Caribbean or they are all around the continent, in China, in India, everywhere, in every race, there's an African. And most of these Africans, we do have understood that were origins also, not just the ones that came through the Atlantic slave trade, but also that it could be historically proven that most Africans were already indigenous Africans in these various locations. So like the creator or the Most High, the universe had created Africans and they were everywhere on the planet. But we started hearing about, the transatlantic slave trade from the European historians who started talking about the discovery of Africa. What am I struggling to say or trying to say? I'm saying the African culture has been transported into various art, due to the migration of the Africans in the different parts of the world. So the African culture is very unique, is very important because these migrant communities or these indigenous communities always take their culture with them. And that's why you hear our slogan on the Pan-African Daily TV, which say, you can take a village, out of me, but you cannot take me out of the village. All right. Or I was born African on the continent, but I'm African everywhere. This, this proverbs or these quotations or these slogans has one thing in common: is the African culture. The African culture is the one most important thing that unites and connects us. So we want to use the case study of the 16th International Africa Festival Expo, the Diaspora platform in Germany, to be able to teach what and how African culture has been able to mobilize Africans on the continent, Africans in the diaspora, to showcase the beauty, to showcase the dynamics, the music, the food, the dance, the fashion, the fabrics, the culture of Africans. And we are going to show you by this example how this festival has been able to reach out to billions of people at home and abroad since its operation in 2007. We are also going to prove to you how this festival has created thousands of jobs to the African community in Germany, whether they are artists, whether they are traders that come there to empower themselves and sell their products and feed their immediate families and support projects on the continent. Whether they are African families that just want to get a home feeling and feel the presence of Mother Africa, being far away from the continent. The importance of this platform has has actually created a global impact that is immeasurable. I also want to use these case studies to be able to show you what it means to volunteer as an African, to be able to contribute to the development of Africa. Most of us, we do it, but we actually don't know that all of us, all Africans, are cultural ambassadors of the African country, of the African continent, of Africans worldwide. We are all cultural ambassadors. If you just are moving around with just being an African, whether you're black or purple or colored, but just being African is enough to be a cultural ambassador. Because when you pass around, everybody look at you and like, oh, where does he come from? Oh, definitely he comes only from Africa. So the African culture is one of the most important products, I call it products, that Africans would begin to use to be able to create jobs for themselves, to be able to create jobs for other Africans, to be able to put the African brands on the global platform. The African culture, it is the unique product, because we know Africans are, they are, I don't know how I can say, they're the gods of culture and entertainment. It is as if when God created the whole world, he took dance, he took music, he took talent and gave it to the Africans. And to our European brothers and sisters, he gave them the technology to be able to maybe create technological tools, which also our ancestors created before. So yes, the African culture is very important. Every African can sing. Every African is a storyteller. Every African can drum. Every African can prepare African food, whether a man or a woman. Every African can do braids, can plait their hair by themselves. Every African can tailor. They can sew their clothes. They can knit. They can weave. Those are all particles, and those are all products of the African cultures, or those are all tools that are African culture. So what is African culture, as a matter of fact? The African culture is our way of doing things, the way Africans do their things, the way they celebrate, the way they dance, the way they eat, what they wear, what they eat that comes from their continent, what are the resources, what are the minerals, what are the businesses, what kind of brands. I mean, what does an African innovate and create is an African culture. What do you plant? What do you harvest? What do you think? What are your dreams like? What dreams do African dreams? You know, what do they dream about? That's the spirituality. That's the science of the African creation. Okay. So, yes, getting back to our focus, like I already put down the flyer, as you can see, it starts with the flyer. If you see this flyer, criteria number 1, that is the image flyer of this year's 16th International Africa Festival in Tübingen, Germany. And you can see we already put, that was the first flyer that we started in the beginning before confirming the date. And we had put on it the Renaissance as a slogan. So whenever you see this flyer, whenever you see it, please remember all African intelligence and African artists, cultural promoters, associations are invited to join the African diaspora community in Germany this year from the 1st, Thursday the 1st to the 4th of June, 2023. This one that you see. Look at the colors, look at the title, look at the logo on it, and look at our youth on it. That's the main image, because we're going to be talking about a lot of events, like I told you, cultural events. We have even the African Descent Festival that is coming up in Canada with Brother Yassine. We have the African Festival that is coming up in Böblingen, also in Germany, with our brother from the Gambia. We have Africa Festival. I mean, there are a lot of African festivals, particularly in Germany and Europe and in the UK, that will be coming up. So I want you to understand the first thing is the image flyer. What distinguishes us or this Africa Festival in Tübingen from the others? So you can look at the flyer. You look at the colors of the flyer. These are Pan-African colors. As you can see, our sun. All right. The sun, as you all know, we are children from the sun. That is the first thing that connects us, that identifies us as Africans, children from the sun. And if you look again on our flyer, the colors, you see black. Black is actually every, is most, it constitute, I think, 80% of this flyer. Why? It is because the world has talked about, not just because the world referred to Africa as the black continent, but of course, because we have been taught a couple of times the importance of the black melanin and the melanin that we have in our DNAs. And that black is not just simply a color of people, but black is a spiritual connection, is the energy, is the melanin that is embedded in every gene type that originates from the continent. So, but you see Pan-African colors on it, a little bit of orange for the brightness, and our minerals are gold, our resources for green and nature. Okay, you look at the background flyer, it is customized not just to share or to communicate, but also to teach about what you should know as an African. What colors are actually pertaining to us and our event that are unique, and that is a teaching factor to us. So this is the official flyer of the 16th International African Festival, the African Diaspora Cultural Festival that is celebrated every year in Germany. What do you need to do with this flyer? What you need to do is to download this flyer and post it on your social media spaces. We have talked about the power in unity of the Africans at home and abroad. We have talked about what connects us and what unites us is the power to share with one another. But we are giving each and every one of us the opportunity to be a part of all our events and events that actually promote and support the African culture in its diversity, as we do know, whether at home or abroad. So please, as I'm speaking to you and you're watching me, make sure you're downloading this flyer. Or those of you that have not received it in your inbox, make sure after this conversation you go through this video again and to be able to download the flyer. Or the best thing you do, text us on our WhatsApp at +49 1578 211 2379, and we would inbox you the flyer wherever you are. The second thing for you as a diaspora to do, or as an African that is proud of your culture, of our African culture and heritage and identity, is to create a content on your Facebook pages. All of you would go live at your individual space and platforms and talk about the invitation of this annual meeting in Germany this June. So that is just a free a space where you can go live and you can talk about it. But us on the Pan-African Daily TV, and particularly this is an invitation from me, Dr. Susan Tatah, to download this flyer, put it as an image for you. All right, create your profile with this flyer, share it in your community groups, and of course, go live on your private Facebook pages and talk about this amazing international meeting of the Africans on the continent and in the diaspora this year in Germany. And I will tell you the reasons why you need to do that, and you need to do that now. So this is a lot more about the image, the communication, the branding of this flyer. Like I said, as I'm speaking to you, most of you, we posted the share committee on our WhatsApp group here, and even in the Pan-African Daily TV groups, you have definitely received this flyer. And also you must have received the image video on Save the Date for 2023 and 2024 in 2024 Germany. But of course, we do know that we'll be operating worldwide, and our operations worldwide will just be also to support your individual event in your community where you are, with your event. Pan-African Daily TV will be there to promote and to celebrate with you. So thank you so much for this. You have heard about the flyer. So the next point we are going to talk about is how to register and how to be a part, if you can do it. So we thought about connecting Africans worldwide, which is our motto, which is our mission, which is even our original concept why we started the International Africa Festival in Tübingen, Germany. We had the vision to come up with a platform that can unite, that can connect us, just to get a home feeling. Just to get a home feeling, because like the migrant community in Germany or in anywhere in the diaspora, the need to connect back and celebrate us is very, very important. And so in Germany is the same thing. In Germany, most of the migrant community are cut off from each other because of their responsibilities. Most of us are families that had to raise children. We had to support also our communities and our families back on the continent. It was very difficult for us to meet. So you look at even the working nature of the migrant communities. The migrant communities need to be celebrated. I'm talking to you on the continent. We need your support to celebrate the migrant communities. And when I talk about the African communities in the diaspora, wherever they are, you on the continent, it is your responsibility to support these communities. Because you know what? Every African in the diaspora is living a miserable, impoverished life. I can guarantee you today. And why do they live that life? Particularly the migrant community, is because all their hard-earned money or the type of jobs that they do is just to support their communities and their families back on the continent. Every African in the migrant community is known as a hustler. Most of them migrated to the communities because of different reasons. Like I said, whether it is through being a refugee, or it is being for economic reason, or for educational purpose, or for family purpose, all the different types of reasons that the diasporans or the Africans leave their continent to visit or to be as indigenous people in the other continent is just for a reason to survive. Some of them is for survival purpose, but most of them is also for cultural exchange and to study and knowledge, to gain knowledge, and also to share knowledge. So it is not always easy to find Africans that now are comfortable and just celebrating their lives and living their lives as other cultures that have been developed. Most of them just go on tourism. Most of them have the possibility. The African community is still a hustling community. The African migrant community, particularly in Germany, is still a survival community. But when we gather at the International Africa Festival, is to celebrate our achievement and our contribution also in these communities, particularly the African community, a migrant community, and diaspora community in Germany. Most of us gather once in a year or look for opportunities to gather just to talk about our people, about the situation in our villages, in our communities, in our families. There is no African migrant in Germany that is just in Germany because they don't love their continent, or because, they are sick and tired of Africa and they just want to, travel for travel purposes. Some can, but 80-90% in my generation as a migrant community came for studies, came as a migrant for whatever reason. And these communities are the ones that are contributing the highest in terms of support and development in their local villages, in their local communities. And so when we gather at an international festival like that, is to also celebrate not just our culture, but our engagement and our developmental initiatives for our communities. Why I say the Africans on the continent must celebrate with us and support the African migrant communities is because the narrative of the propaganda has made it in such a way that the Africans on the continent think that the diasporans or Africans in the diaspora have too much money. And so they don't respect their counterparts out here, or even the diaspora hustles and struggles to bring developmental projects back to the continent. Most of the Africans in on the continent think that, this is a source of exploitation of their counterparts in the diaspora. I want to make this very clear. The African migrants out of Africa are the most marginalized and disadvantaged people than the ones on the continent. On the continent, you are on the continent of Mother Africa. You have all the support. You are in a family setup. Everywhere you go, you have support from relatives, from families. You have support from one another. You dance at every corner. There's music. There's a cultural activity. There's a celebration. In every format, you are blessed. You are satisfied. You don't need anything. But the Africans in the diaspora struggle just to meet once in a year, to celebrate, just to get the home feeling, just to see one another, to connect. Bring our children together, children that have been born here, that are now referred to as the first diasporan community, because us, we are known as the migrants, but our children that are born in the diaspora as known as the African Germans. In this case, they call them in Germany the Afro Germans, because they're the ones that are born in Germany. And so these children, most often because of the work and the hustle that the migrant communities are, don't have time actually to really take them to the continent, to show where they come from, to educate them about who they are. So the only possibility that we have once in a year is when we gather at cultural festivals, and particularly the International Africa Festival in Tübingen. That's the reason, and the fundamental reason why we came together and created this platform, not just as a product of entertainment to Germans or to the white communities or to other to other communities in Europe or in Germany. The first reason why the International Africa Festival Tübingen, Germany, was created was a platform that could bring us together, Africans in Germany, particularly in the southern region, bring our families, bring our children that are born here to get to know each other. That was the primary objective that came as an idea. And this idea was brought by Sonjo and Susan Tatah, a small family that thought about how they can bring their culture on the global platform, but also to engage us to be able to celebrate our community in Germany. For our African American diasporans, or the African Caribbeans, or the African Canadians, or the African Brazilians, or the African Haitians, or the African in the UK, or the Africans in Belgium, or the Africans in France, it is a little bit different, because the African community in Germany is actually made by the African migrants, whom constitute the last wave of migrants into the German community, starting early as in the let's just say in the 90s or the 92s. But most of these migrants started coming in already. The popular wave came in the 98, the 2000s, or the 92s, right? But we already had like those that came like students, a very few of them. But when the crisis started evolving on the continent, and Germany opens up its door, for the migrants or the asylum seekers, or those that would also have the permission or the authorization to connect with their families back, that is when the influx of the African community and the migrant community actually grew up in Germany. And this one is what this migrant community is what, when you hear about Africans in Germany or African community in Germany, it has been referred to this community. But of course, we have what the Germans call the Afro Germans, which are the indigenous children that are born of both families in those years, those that came like researchers or came for other reasons, like we call them in Germany the Obamas. Right? Like the Obamas, when the parents came, whether it was the mother or the father who came to Germany in those days in the 40s or in the 30s, and due to their interracial marriages and connections, gave birth now to these Afro Germans, whom have the background of African parents and a German parent. And these are the ones that the German community actually refer to them as the bio, or the organic African diasporas. And these ones also, we have them as a small portion of them. But the challenges that these other Afro-Germans are having in Germany is the identity crisis, just like any other. Like you can imagine, you're coming from an interracial marriage. So most of these children actually don't belong. to the German or to the African community. They still have a problem in actually trying to really belong and understand where their identity is. So as we created the International Africa Festival, it was also an opportunity for these Afro-Germans to be able to connect, to get an insight of the African culture, to know that they are also part of this culture, and to be able to embrace their identity, whether it was from the maternal or from the paternal side. So Germany is still going through this kind of challenges to be able to actually position whether you are a German just by nationality, like us, but your heritage is African. And that's why you see most often in Germans will refer to you like an African with a German passport. Yes, because you're just an African national, as in German, but your heritage is African from the continent. And so this is not an act that people refer to mostly as it's a racial art or racism, as most people in Germany. For me, I think it is an identity aspect, which also needs to be articulated. I am an African by heritage, but I have the nationality or I carry the German passport. Doesn't make me an indigenous German. Why would I want to be? So that is for this reason the International Africa Festival was created with this initiative, with this vision to bring the different migrant communities, those that migrated, those that were the origins, and in the different sectors, whether they are scholars, whether they are students, whether they are professionals, whether they are businesses, whether they are entrepreneurs, whether they are small groupings of or cultural groups, banks, or uh, native cultural groups. Like we have the Igbo community, we have the Cameroon community, we have the Kenyan community. I mean, all the communities on the continent are highly represented in Germany. And that's why I said every African is a cultural ambassador. Our culture is the one unique thing that has no barrier, that has no boundaries. These boundaries are political boundaries in our minds, but our culture is the only thing that doesn't have the boundaries between us. And so thousands and thousands of visitors since the creation of the Africa Festival in Tübingen have visited. The third reason why we came up with a vision in 2006 to create this International Africa Festival was because during most of us, during our study programs in Germany or being as an African in Germany, we actually realized that there's a lot of miseducation about the African culture, about African people, just as everywhere. You know, the media is not really, that's not the job of the media to educate the communities about these cultures, right? So we took upon it as a group of people, as an organization, to be able to take the responsibility and do that, to teach our culture in a professional way through these festivals. And believe me, the first edition when we started in Reutlingen, that's a nearby city to Tübingen University town in southern region of Federal Republic of Germany. Reutlingen was the first city where we started the organization, and then we migrated to the university, the town in Tübingen. I mean, we migrated the event there. And you can already see that the first edition that we hosted in 2007, we had more than 7,000 non-Africans. I'm talking about the German community and other cultures that came to celebrate that edition. Why? Because exactly what I said, it is the duty of us Africans to create enabling platforms to be able to celebrate, to teach, and to empower other communities about our culture. Because we sleep most of the time and blame other cultures for the way they misinterpret Africa or the way they talk about Africa. But it's our responsibility as Africans to teach them about our African culture, about who we are, about our continent, about our people. And the simple and best way that we did it was to create this platform 16th International Africa Festival Tübingen. And so we gave the opportunity to Germans, to other African cultures, to Italians, to Spaniards, to all the other migrant community in Germany to be able to have access to what we call original African culture organized by Africans from an African perspective. And so what we did in this festival, we gave the platform for people to be able to exhibit their projects, their food, their culture in every format, in as much as it fits with the concept of Africa. In as much as your products is promoting the African culture, or your organization is promoting the African culture, you are a participant. So we want to thank when we launched the project, we got the international media, particularly African media platforms in Germany, who have been celebrating this festival, who report about it. The bloggers network in East Africa and all African countries, they have picked our flyers since then. They run about it. And so the International Africa Festival Tübingen has become a household name and a magnet, a platform that connects Africans on the continent, in the diaspora, by the diaspora, but also open to friends and partners who have the clear mind and the goodwill to actually celebrate the African culture from an African perspective. I know it sounds complicated. It sounds complicated the way I narrate it. But as Pan-Africans, as Africans, again, I say, it is our responsibility. When we invite other people to connect to our spaces, we're inviting them as visitors. If you have a need and you love the African culture, of course you're part. But when you come to our platforms, we do it the African way. We celebrate the African culture from our African perspective. We showcase the beauty, the potentials, the opportunities, but also the challenges that the African culture and the African continent is going through. Most of people in the world from different backgrounds honestly don't understand what Africa and African culture is. So it is our responsibilities as Africans to provide such platforms, to teach, to educate, to give them opportunities to be able to taste African food. All right? You know, to have an opportunity to share that space and to dance to African music, to have the opportunity to exhibit their know-how and their love for Africa. So it is not a joke. It is not just organizing an African festival to take grants from government and begin to put their initiative and their programs and their ideas on your platform, and you call yourself you're an African event organizer. An African event organizer is the one that has the objective to teach his culture, her culture, to other cultures in the world. Yes. And so, if you are proudly African, then you should be able to understand it is your responsibility. When you are creating a platform, it's not just a product. It's not just a product. It's not just a stepping stone where you have to collect grants all around to promote agendas that don't promote Africa. It's not just to say, oh no, we are promoting African and as African because you're Black, but you're all white in your mentality to celebrate the other cultures that do not promote Africa. It is not enough to say, I have a platform as an African, or because I wear African clothes, I am an African. We have a lot of other non-Africans that look like you, that truly bleed for this continent, And most of them are always volunteering on our platforms. They just want to help. They just want to support. They want to bring their contribution. They want to pay back maybe reparations for all their wrongdoings to this continent in one way or the other. They want to pay their allegiance. They want to show respect to the Africans. They want to share their love. They want to show that we can celebrate you too, that we understand your challenges, that we understand how you are struggling. So if you're an African in this mindset, that you organize an African festival or a platform or any event that has to do with Africa, and you don't know and you don't understand and you want to, but you don't have the know-how, email me, text me on Pan African Daily. I would support you free of charge. You know, we don't charge for anything that we do, neither on our festivals, neither on our platforms. All we do is to share voluntarily, to give back to Africa what belongs to Africa, what belongs to Mother Africa. Because we believe at the International Africa Festival, Tübingen, that it is our responsibility as Africans to give back. To give back. And I'm so proud to tell you my family and I, Sonja Tatah and Susan Tatah, has bleeded to keep the International Africa Festival in Tübingen operating for 20 years plus, voluntarily, with our private funds, and engaging the community as volunteers with a huge family support, with a huge African community support, whether they are musicians, whether they are volunteers, whether they are logisticers. Everybody has heard our cry, have supported our vision since 2006, starting in Reutlingen. The thousands of visitors that come every year to this festival. A festival before COVID, we used to host 30,000 visitors before COVID. You can look at our statistics, you can check it on our platforms, you can just get the vibration, you know, of how this festival. Click on our videos on the website at www.africafestival-international.org. It is on the flyer. That's why I was telling you about the flyer. Every information, how you have to register, how you have to participate, how you have to be a part, is on that flyer. The page, the homepage is on that flyer. So the story of the Africa Festival Tübingen is a story that started just like a small idea. A husband and a wife that sat together and said, we have a need. And we called 5 friends in our community and said, and I presented the idea to them. And they said, yes, we love it. And we started that organization in 2006. And we launched the first Africa Festival Tübingen in Reutlingen in 2007. And we organized 4 editions in that region, in that town. And because of the capacity, the growth potential, the city could not accommodate the population that was coming every year to celebrate the Africa Festival in Tübingen. And so the neighboring university town, Tübingen, reached out to us and said, we love your festival. We love this event. Is it possible that you can have this event in our city? And they even actually sent a delegation from the university town to visit our organization or the festival in Tübingen in 2008. These were professionals, because you already hear that Tübingen is a university town that has a partnership to Moshi in Tanzania, but also a university town that has a tropical university. That's why they call it a university town. That deals with all the tropical diseases like malaria and all typhoid. And I mean, tropical disease already tells you that these are diseases that are coming from the tropics. So this university center have hosted, you know, great educators like Wole Soyinka. They have hosted like African keynote speakers on the African culture that are African activists. Okay, and so the University Town Tübingen is a unique location in Tübingen for this festival. You know, I'm breaking down the history of the International Africa Festival Tübingen. You cannot mention an African festival in Germany that is unique and that is referred to us without putting the location and the town and the importance of that town and the contribution to that town to Africa and the partnership and how the African and this community respects and deal with African. That is why not every festival should be hosted. Not every African cultural festival should be hosted in any community in the diaspora that does not portray and showcase and respect the Africans in that community. It should not be. So that festival would just be a festival where people are just using the African culture, you understand, and to create other energies or other systems or even businesses for themselves. All right. So it is very important for you to understand the location. Tübingen is unique. Tübingen University Town. You can Google it. You don't even need to Google it. Just go on our website and you click about the location and you will see like information for visitors and travelers. So if you click on the website like on for visitors, I'm still going to host all the communications, a PowerPoint on the website, give you all the possibilities. But today it was just about telling you the history, about how it came to exist. Because most often we talk about the African diaspora, we're always showcasing the Africans in the American, the Africans in the Caribbean, the Africans in Canada and Brazil and other places. Today, I'm really focusing on the Africans in Germany, the African community in Germany, and how we all globally has to support this community in its struggle as to celebrate their culture. You have to support this community through your sponsorship. We are going to levy all Pan-African organizations, institutions, businesses on the continent and in the diaspora $100 as a support to support this upcoming festival. It's already in the sponsorship form. All African, Pan-African organization, initiatives, NGOs, businesses on the continent, in the diaspora, and private individual, you have a levy of 100 euros or dollars to support to this festival. Now I want to tell you why. Why? Because it's not only our power in unity, but why? Because this is the youngest migrant community that are facing a lot of challenges in terms of sponsorship to be able to put the African culture in the way it should be. I'm saying so because like I told you, my family and I have put more than billions us as voluntarily keeping this festival for 20 plus years. And we did it not complaining. We have had to pay bill. Even just the edition 2020, we had losses due to all these administrative things that happened, that we had to relocate the date and lost a lot of exhibitors and participants. We are paying a damage of 40,000 euros for that edition. And you know what? We've been doing more than that. Because at some point, you have to take responsibility for this continent. The first question, after we had the financial damage and losses due to the tornadoes and also the weather that is always not favorable at this period of time in Germany. And the first question that the city department asked me was like, Dr. Tatah, You have been doing these festivals, and we see that you're putting all your energy and your family and your community into it. And sometimes you are having a lot of problem with weather, having a lot of losses, financial losses, up to 6 figure. Why do you still keep doing this with your family? Don't you think that you're putting your family in a jeopardy, in a financial loss, and a mess? And what we told the city department was somebody has to do it for Africa. And we believe that it is our journey, it is our mission, that our ancestors and the Most High sent us on the universe to do that. Not everybody has come to this planet to build houses. Not everybody has come to this planet to buy land and just earn a salary. Most of us have been called purposefully to be as missionaries with our work on the continent. And you see the reason why that huge sum of monies that I said we put there is not just from the Tatars. It's from the whole African community at home and abroad. The ones that are participating, the volunteers, we have each year more than 300 volunteers. Last year, Sister Cheryl and Sister Senovia already bought their ticket to come and support as being volunteers. But because of the challenge that we had last year, because of the relocation of the date, they could not, and they lost their tickets. So it is not only you paying a levy of $100 or euros to contribute for us to be able to organize this year and the coming years, but it is also calling upon you to book your ticket and to come and volunteer on this event, because the event is huge. We cannot, with our small means, support this event anymore. We are overcapacitated. The huge audience that is coming every year to Tübingen to celebrate this festival is too much for us to accommodate. Our volunteers are outpowered. The security is outpowered. You know, all the requirements that we need to secure that and to secure the attendance is overcapacitated. Because why? Because of the vision of the founders to celebrate, to promote, to brand Africa, to teach about our culture. Voluntarily, sacrificing our children, sacrificing our jobs, our health. Most of us have been sick. I cannot tell you how much. Most of us have been in an emergency center for 3 months because we've been outpowered running this organization for 20 years with no support. We deliberately did not apply for grants because, as you know, every grants come with a meaning or an agenda behind it. And most often when we applied or we looked into these grants, we saw that we don't meet the criteria of this granting, of these grants and funding. And that is why we stopped putting our energy in applying for projects or funding or stuff, because all the project funding had criteria that did not actually meet with us to our own criteria, or we didn't have the capacity as a small non-profit organization that is just passionately promoting its culture to be able to fill all those 100 pages, putting all your energy into it as if you're writing a business plan for an investor that would give you $1 billion. And so we started in the beginning and we realized that that was not it. And most of this grant, actually, we did not meet those criteria or the deadlines because we didn't have the capacity to do it. All we wanted was a platform to gather, to share our culture, to connect with our diasporas, to get to know one another, to celebrate our continent, to showcase and to tell our mothers, our children, our girls, our boys on the continent that we are with you together. Even though for whatever reason that we are in the diaspora, we are still part of you. That we share your challenges, we share your complaints, we share your poverty, we share your challenges. That was the same. That was the simple reason why myself and my husband and my family and our children sacrificed for more than 20 years to keep this platform running. And you can see that this is a vision that was given to us by our ancestors and our creator. That's why the festival is outcapacitated, because the spirit that are connecting, that are visiting these festivals, are also the chosen one. They are people that have good intention. They are people that love the African culture. I mean, originally, they have the love. Because our programs don't reflect those kind of programs of mighty, big festivals with big stage, with big musicians that are named artists, because that was never our objective. And so we see like companies or agencies that are promoting African artists just because we're African culture, but they're not African promoters or agencies, you know, would sell us, as I can say, would promote their artists on tour like African artists. But small organizations and non-profit organizations like us don't have the budget and don't have the intention to book artists for $5,000, for $10,000, for $20,000, just to give them a check for 2 hours for performing. For us, we think that's an abuse. So we did not intentionally invite that kind of artist, because we thought it is the responsibility of every African to promote and to celebrate their culture from a prestigious point of view. I don't need to be paid to celebrate my culture. I don't need to be paid to promote my brands. I don't need to be paid to wear my African wonderful handmade original fabrics. I don't need to be paid to dance my cultural dance for Africa. I don't need to be paid, you know, to come and sing and dance. So those platforms that do it is because either they want to cover the cost also, but also they look at the African culture as a product where they can sell to Europeans or to foreign cultures, and it becomes a business like. Am I saying that I have a problem with you organizing those type of festivals? No. I'm just saying that us, from the Africa We Want non-profit organization organizing the International Africa Festival in Tübingen, that is not our mission and our vision. And our core competence is not in that. Because most of us have abused our culture. And that's why people start, oh, we are the biggest festival. Oh, we are the this. I can tell you the biggest worldwide festival that represents the African culture and show respect to our ancestors, to our culture in every format. Come to Africa Festival Tübingen, Germany. You understand what I'm talking about. I don't need to tell you. One proof is how our African visitors and audience, our German community in Germany, particularly Tübingen, is fighting to keep this festival. Last year, when the festival had this challenge and the date was unceremoniously pushed to another date, the German fans and audience of the Africa Festival Tübingen rose up in their numbers. They rioted. There was not even one single African origin there in that riot. They wrote a petition. They made calls to our office, to our homes, to other communities to say, no, we want to keep the Africa Festival Tübingen, because that's the unique Africa festival that we feel the African vibration and spirit. It was the German community in Tübingen, professors from the university, activists, supporters of the Africa Festival Tübingen that rose up and they said, no, We want to keep this festival. Every requirement that we want, you cannot oblige, we cannot even miss to not have this festival in 2022. And even as we struggled, suffered, labored, and had to organize on a different date, just 3 weeks apart from the original date, and still to register a huge attendance and record, it was impossible for anybody to believe that we could do it in 2022. Even my team and well-wishers that came to us and said, no, Dr. Tatah, we are behind you. Sister Nadada drove all the way from Munich. People drove from Berlin. People flew in from the continent of Africa and said, particularly for this year, 2022, we want to show our support for Africa Festival Tübingen in Germany, because you and your family have labored and have created this platform for our children, for our people, and for the continent of Africa. We want to show you our support. The visitors, the people of Tübingen rioted. They came to the festival in their numbers. They said, no, we are here. We are many that love the African culture, that love a platform that connects and unites people for love, for unity, for peace, for celebration of humanity. Even if it is not Africa, but this festival connects people irrespective of their status, their gender, their nationality, their perspective. They all came. The only sad thing is we lost 80% of our traders who had already committed to other events taking place on that same weekend last year, the first weekend of September. Because normally we celebrated these festivals in August. But from this year, we are going to start celebrating in June, first weekend of June. Even 2024 agenda or date, you've already seen it, is from the 6th to the 9th of June. Why did we choose June? Because we are connecting the Africa Day celebration to this event. The Africa Day is celebrated, or the African Liberation Day of the African Union is celebrated every May 25th. 25th of May each year on the continent at the African Union capital in Addis Ababa, and all African diplomats and embassies around the world. May 25th is celebrated in honor of the liberators and the freedom fighters and the OAU and the founding fathers and mothers that came together to create this organization. So we took June to connect it to this celebration, because the week before June is the week where we celebrate the African Day, the African Liberation Day. So as a matter of fact, the festival starts a week before. The festival this year and activities are going to start from Thursday, May 25th. But the festival itself, gathering at the African village in Tübingen, is from 1st of June to the 4th. Okay? So yes, we have to celebrate our unity, our unification. And while we celebrate this other indoor event, we now gather at the African village in Tübingen, University Town, to commemorate and to celebrate our African culture. I already told you highlight is going to be the Sheikh Anta Diop Day 2023. Okay, so that's the highlight. Apart from every other thing, we have a cultural parade, we have vendors, we have, we'll be breaking down all this in the next conversations that are coming. So we can take just the African market and we talk about the characteristics and what kind of vendors and exhibitors that we are looking for. Because one unique thing is the African market. The African market at the African Diaspora Festival in Tübingen is unique. Everything that we do at our African festival is teaching, has a meaning. We don't just look for exhibitors and fill the whole place, and then it just becomes like, what do I want to say? It just becomes like a trash can where everybody who has any NGO that is not even promoting the culture just has to come and pay and have a stand. No. International Africa Festival Tübingen, they know us for that. If you actually are not representing the interest of Africa, and we see it, and we research and see that you are not, you are just somebody who just wants to come and buy a space and make money, we are not taking you. We are also not taking sponsorship from organizations that think that they can just rubbish Africa and then come and put a logo or a banner at a festival just to show that, but intentionally they are not promoting Africans or African culture. We don't take your sponsorship. This is unique. They know us. So the fact that we keep that festival at that kind of profile is not because we don't know how to write grants. It's not because we don't know how to write big sponsorship, or you don't see logos of institutions or all kind of logos on the Africa Festival. Look at the flyer. Did you see any logo on it? And that's why I was talking to you about the flyer. I'm still coming every week, or as we'll be coming live, like I said, from now till after the festivals in June, July, we'll be talking and I'll be showing you all the characteristics, starting from the flyer. There's no logo on it. Maybe the Pan-African logo, and the main logo is the image logo of the festival, Africa Festival Tübingen. For those that are joining late, I already shared the flyer, I already showed you, but let me just put it to you again. So it is intentional. Our vision with this festival in Germany that we started as a small, tiny family has now become the magnet. And they talk about in the African diaspora on the continent. But diaspora communities like the African American community, the African communities in Canada, in Brazil, or all other diaspora communities, it is the first time that we are opening up and we are introducing this festival to you, because we had to take time, energy, resources to be able to first of all be able to create the structure, create the organization, create the platform. Our focus was not only to invite people to come and give money or that. Our focus was first of all putting the energy, the platform, the structure. And you can imagine all the challenges that we've gone through trying to set this platform for 20 plus years. We have hosted 22 editions. The 16th edition is only in this location, Tübingen, where we feel comfortable, where the city has given us that, and the city is supporting us. That African village is 20,000 square meters. That's how we call it, the African village. 20,000 square meters. And the cultural department of this university town of Tübingen has given us that place, you know, I can say even for free, because the amount that we as a non-profit organization pay this community is just like peanut. But it's a huge arena that can accommodate the whole of Africa. That's what we say. And so the African continent and its 54 countries on the continent and its diaspora has the possibility to host an information stand at this year's festival and in the comings. We have the capacity, we have the space. The city, the Tübingen University Cultural Department has supported us and say, we love Africa. Bring your culture to our city. Bring your education. Our people love Africa. We are all Africans. Teach us. We share. We connect. We are Africans in Germany. Bring your projects. Bring your contribution. Bring education that you people are always complaining that we, the Europeans, don't know Africa. Oh, we don't know how to promote Africa. Oh, we are talking only about the negative think our newspapers are not promoting Africa the way it should be. You Africans, bring your know-how now to these platforms and show us how we can do better. So you have a university town like this that has been supporting this festival, giving us that village there, supporting our noise, supporting our everything for more than 20 years. Because we relocated to Tübingen University Town in 2010. This year is 2023, so we've been there for 23 years. Of course, 3 years of COVID we did not host, and then other 2 years that 1 year that we didn't host. That's why it's coming back to its 16th anniversary. But we have been in Tübingen University Town since 2010. If Tübingen did not love Africa, did not connect with Africa, did not share the values of Africa, they will not do it. So please, it is an opportunity that we are giving to the 54 countries of Africa, to diaspora African communities that are focusing their projects, their NGOs, their companies, their businesses, their entrepreneurship on the African culture. This year's theme, we put 100% African culture. We are proud of who we are. That's our slogan. 100% African culture. We are proud of who we are. We would be giving you the criteria. We will be giving you who is eligible for to participate, because not all of us that are calling African are Africans. We need fashion designers with a unique collection of African original fabrics, handmade fabrics. We are looking for you designers in this collection, with your collections, to bring your collections to Tübingen this year. Because our culture is our identity. Our culture is everything. It's our know-how. Our culture is our heritage. And so before others begin to talk, other cultures do their brands, we also have our own indigenous African brands. We have it. Give me a minute. Let me take what I'm talking about, the African unique. You see me already wearing this. So you can already see me in my cultural regalia. If everywhere you see this fabric and you see this print, you know these are Cameroonian clothes. These are clothes that comes from the culture of Cameroon, particularly the southern region of Cameroon. This is the handmade production. Women sit down and mark and weave these clothes everywhere on the planet. When you see these colors and this weaving, you just know this is Cameroon. This is the people of Cameroon. This is the unique culture, the fabrics, the weaving. We are going to, I would show you on these conversations. We'll be hosting guests here, designers and participants, to tell you the story. But I am like the founder and the visionary behind this, and how I want us to celebrate African cultural festivals in the future. That is why I am taking all this time and to connect with us, to give you the history of International Africa Festival Tübingen, Germany. Because before before many of you that are seeing me on the Pan-African Daily, before you know me on the Pan-African Daily, I have been the cultural activist in practice, in everything since I was a child. Everything that I do, if it is not promoting Africa or promoting humanity or promoting Africans, I'm out of here. And I think the day this would end, this bread would end, is the day that I will be dancing or jumping or doing anything in the name of African culture. That is my mission. That is my purpose in the world. And I don't charge for it, because I know I'm a visionary. I'm a missionary on that purpose. So don't come and think you can buy me to talk about African culture. You will never get me. Don't think you can invite me or to come and, like a media would come on. Yes, of course, you have to pay the conditions on which you can invite me to your event to teach you about the African indigenous culture as I grew up in my village to see my fathers, my parents, my elders practice them. Everything that we did, how we do marriages, everything that we did, everything that we perform. I'm a daughter of a cultural breed. And that's why I do everything for my culture. So you look at, like I said, these fabrics, this typical Cameroonian. You can see, if I can stand up, you see? You see the gong, which is a symbol. What is this? It's an assignment. You can drop the comment in the box if you're watching me. What is this symbol you see on my elegant, beautiful, handmade clothes from Cameroon, southern region? What is it? What is this symbol? And what does it mean in an African culture? Okay? And you look at the markings on it. It's all telling a story. All right, now we have this other combination. I'll still tell you the history of this combination. We talk about the Nile River, the blue Nile River. We call it today the happy. These are the colors. Okay? So when we talk about our culture, it's a lot. It's a lot that connects us. It's a lot that unites us. Today, because what we are wearing and calling African fabrics is not the original African fabrics. These are all a collection of Hollanders that looked at these colorful prints and said, oh, they look good on the dark skin. And they started doing all that. And we start buying it. And every day, you look at the Ghana independence that was celebrated this weekend, 60th independent or 62 anniversary, and everybody, and they put the topic and the main focus was Kente. But I'm so disappointed that the kente that I saw was all these made in China and Holland things. They did not present the original handmade kente. And the kente is a unique story, a whole story. Professor James Small narrated and explained and taught about the kente, the story behind the West African Ghanaian traditional clothing called kente. And that's why in Tübingen this year at the 16th International Africa, these are things we have to teach ourselves. When we talk about our fabrics, African fabrics, what are we talking about? What history do they carry? What is an African fabric to talk about? Yes, we can wear all clothes. We wear everything that is made of cotton or not cotton or whatever, or plastic. But then what is an African fabric? So that's what I say. Our platform is not just to sing and dance and drum. We teach ourselves. Now you look at this, you know this. This is very famous. This is very famous, particularly in the diaspora communities. That's why I love diaspora. The diaspora know the history and the story and the culture of Africa more than Africans on the continent. More than 80% of Africans on the continent. And we know why. The diasporans know the history, the culture, and they actually celebrate the African culture, even those that are born that have never been on the continent, more than the continentals. Let us hold a debate on this. I'm going to teach you. I will prove everything to you. Of course, you do it on the continent organically, but the diaspora does it intentionally. All right? So you know this. You know these fabrics. These are original, handmade. They call it the mud cloth of Mali. They come from Mali, Burkina Faso, or the West African countries. And you see the stories on them. You see the stories. These are handmade. They are woven. You see the colors are of earth, dark, brown, black, a combination. These are all our African fabrics. When we talk about African fabrics. This is what we're talking about. This one's this unique designs. You can see the stories on them. It's like I said, the one that I'm putting on. If you look at that one, you have a collection on these ones that are being worn only by the royals. The royals in those days in the southern Cameroon or southern region of Cameroon or the West Cameroon culture, you cannot put this one on if you are not a royal. And even till today, if you are not a royal, you dare not put this on because this was a unique cloth that has a meaning, that has power, that has a spiritual connection of healing, of everything that has to do. So when the royals, the kings are going out for ceremonies to perform rituals, libations of good health, of good cropping, of good farming, of good everything, they put on this original regalias. Okay? But today, because our culture, the United Kingdoms and Kingdoms is disseminating this culture. Now you see people, they wear these clothes, even in nightclubs, you know, cultural activists, promoters of the culture, those who actually know what this means and signifies, you would see how they wear them. Exactly like we have also the traditional headscarves. All this fabrics, all this education, we are going to do it at the International Africa Festival in Tübingen this year. It's the beginning. I showed you the flyer and I told you the slogans was Renaissance. Why Renaissance? Why Renaissance? Why do you see Renaissance on this flyer? You see, I had to tell you about a lot of things, but it's just one topic that I am on for more than 2 hours. And you see why teaching of our culture is very important. And even the images and the slogans and the words and the colors that we put on our flyers is all about teaching. It's all about message. If you look here, you see Renaissance here. Why did we put in bracket Renaissance? Because it's the beginning of the African understanding their culture, their elements, renaissance of the rebirth, rebirth, rebirth. We're talking about awake, talking about awoken. We're talking about renaissance. The Europeans also have the Renaissance festivals, and that's where I really actually, when I went into this inspiration as a research, because one other thing that you have to understand, like I told you, we are academical. I mean, I don't have anything about people that are not academics, or when I say academics or scholars. The Africa Festival Tübingen is a research work since 20 years. Every edition has been unique. All programs have been unique because no edition was enough for us. So we took into consideration 20 plus years. We're also in future going to do, we will in future do even a series and a documentary in a series just about the vision, the idea, this platform and its impact. Because this platform, I cannot tell you the energy that he has brought and has changed even the face of the African community in Germany. This festival, we just call it simply festival. But I told you there were just two tiny brains, two tiny unique African on the continent, the diaspora, Sonjo and Susan Tatah, just came together with a small brain and idea. And you can see how each of our mission and purpose is realized for a reason at a certain time and place. Okay? So you are not small to be a cultural ambassador. Because of course we do know culture is everything. We cannot talk about politics, African politics, without talking about culture. We cannot talk about economics without talking about culture. We cannot talk about job creation or technology without talking about culture. And of course, we cannot talk about agriculture without culture. So imagine all of us would transform and become cultural activists and promoters of the African culture. I can bet you all the solutions that we're looking for to develop Africa, to contribute, to liberate, to support, to free, to unite, to connect, to do business, to contribute to the world. Every solution is in the African culture, because the African culture is the belief and the way of life by the Africans. Whether it is the African sacred science, which today we call scientific research, Africans had it in the culture. Whether it's the African way of talking, it's in the culture. Every other culture that has its unique values, the way they do their things, the way they celebrate, the way they eat, what they eat, the way they speak, what they speak, what they wear, how they dance, everything, how they do politics, how they rule themselves, has a culture. The only thing why we have to wake up and be cultural ambassadors is because the African culture has been mixed. The African culture has been, it's a cultural, it's a pot, it's a melting pot. One African ambassador described the African festival, Tübingen, as a melting pot. That was the then African ambassador to Togo in Berlin, Germany in 2013. The image video is on our platform. Click on it and see and listen and watch all the testimonials. This festival, Africa Festival Tübingen, has had the most unique decision makers and prominent in the German community, politicians, business people endorse this festival. 2010, the then German president of the Federal Republic of Germany, Excellency Horst Kohler, endorsed the Africa Festival Tübingen when we moved to Tübingen. Because Tübingen, first of all, was her alma mater where he studied. And he made a statement and said, how I wish the International Africa Festival Tübingen was organized during my student years as a student in the University of Tübingen. He lamented, he wept on why did this festival, this idea, why this idea didn't come up. But of course, we have the people of Tübingen, cultural centers and organizers in Tübingen that has been promoting the African culture in Tübingen in the 60s and the 70s. We have a lot of location and organization and cultural centers in Tübingen that have been promoting the African culture before the Africa Festival in Tübingen. But when he saw that Africans are beginning to organize themselves to promote their culture by themselves, he wrote an endorsement letter. We have it in a hard copy. You understand? If a German president would acknowledge and recognize and even wish to be a part of your organization, that is a unique document. We don't mess around with it. But if you go on our website, it is just written in Germany. You can click in German, sorry. You can click those PDF under, I think it's under for sponsors and also visitors. You would see all those PDF, and those are the endorsements. First, that one. Secondly, we had an endorsement from the minister president of this region, Baden-Württemberg in Tübingen. Minister Kretschmann Winfrey gave us an endorsement in 2016, written and signed with their pictures on it. If you click on the PDF, you can translate it. You can just copy and put it on the translator. Google has everything now. They would translate this VIP prominent messages, endorsement from prominent leaders, political leaders, decision makers in the German community that has endorsed this festival. And then talk less about the Lord Mayor of Tübingen, Mayor Boris Palmer. He has been the architect that after his term, we have been organizing the festival. I mean, they advise us even and give us support, you know, just normal support. Like if we need information, how to connect with the other communities and stuff like that, they give us that moral support to have access to contacts and stuff like that. If they didn't respect our vision, our mission, our engagement, our commitment, they would not do it, because we have thousands of these festivals in Germany. So we have a lot. Even when Chancellor Angela Merkel was still president of Germany, he sent his Secretary of State in 2014 to visit our festival. The Africa correspondent for Germany, for the German government to African states and countries during the Angela Merkel presidency, he is known as Gunther Noke. I cannot imagine, I cannot explain how many times he has visited the International Africa Festival Tübingen, Germany. African ambassadors, more than 30 of them, have visited the International Africa Festival Tübingen, Germany. Go to the website, click on the image video, you would see, you would hear what they say. The ambassador of Nigeria is a huge and the most biggest in terms of population, is comparative or comparable to or is measured in terms of population to America, to the United States of America, with 300 plus million. The ambassador of Nigeria, when he attended the International Africa Festival Tübingen in 2013, he said, it is not possible that the African diaspora can organize a platform like this. And he said platforms like this, they thought would be in Berlin. Berlin is the capital of Germany that you know about the Berlin Conference. He was shocked. The ambassador of Congo said it and said, we are so proud that the African migrant community can pull up more than 20, 30, 40,000 people to showcase Africa's know-how, because we invited them to promote and to brand their countries as ambassadors. And they gave investment, engagement possibilities. In 2012, we negotiated, we met, we reached out to the Chamber of Industries and Commerce in our region and invited them to what we call on the festival Africa Business Forum. And we did that business forum from 2012 to 2016. And this Chamber of Industry and Commerce networked and partnered with all African German investors and companies that were operating on the continent of Africa to showcase their projects, and also developmental cooperative and projects, the German African developmental cooperative bodies with projects on the continent of Africa. All this, we have done it at the International African Festival Tübingen. I don't know any other platform. And honestly, for the first time, I tap my back like this. I congratulate myself, like we say in the African language, for this engagement. Why am I telling you this story? Because most of you watching the Pan-African Daily, barely know me 2-3 years ago. And so most of you can misinterpret us or misinterpret Dr. Tatah as just a content creator on YouTube. Most of you compare us to other platforms that are on YouTube that are just doing, of course, doing their own work and their mission. But we are more than that. We have built the African community in Germany and took them to the highest level, branded them, promoted them, showed the face of the true Africa. We have done that at the expense of our life, of our finance, of our health, and even our relationship. But we are proud and proud today to bring this platform, calling upon all of you to be a part, to come, contribute, celebrate, teach, empower the young African diaspora community, migrant community in Germany. We need your support. You African Americans in America, you have been on this mission for 400 years. You have a lot of experience. In America, we have Black universities or universities that are teaching African culture. We have centered African curriculum that are talking about Africa and African culture. That are all, we have organization, institute, communities that are led and organized by African scholars that promote and talk and teach about the African continent, the culture, the community. In most European countries, we don't have that. We are still new. The migrant community is still new. Most of them not 20, 30 years. That is small as comparable to you that have gained this knowledge and this competence for 400 plus years. We need your support. We need to collaborate on how we can contribute as Africans in our different communities to support the development of African and also to support the knowledge of our African culture, our African to other cultures where we are operating. It is not enough to just sit and complain all the time that, oh, the West has a propaganda about the African culture. I really applaud the African American community, the indigenous community that went through slavery and are going through a lot of challenges, but they never give up on their culture. They're the ones that are more African than us from the continent. Their belief, what they wear, how they brand, how they promote this Africa is uncontestable. We know nothing about our original African stories because we are operating on the continent of Africa, so we take it for granted. Why should I do a research about my village when I'm already a village girl in Africa? Doesn't make sense. Until I migrate, until I engage, I travel, I have international experiences. I go to China. I see how China, they embrace their culture. I go to Europe. I see how, particularly Germans, I'm so proud how Germans promote, brand, hold on to their culture. A German cannot even taste your food if they don't know it because they are so proud of their food. And that is how we became empowered. And that is why this German president, when he wrote an endorsement, please, I urge all of you to go to our website, www.africafestival-international.org. Go to the menu for sponsors, and you will see the PDFs. Please click on that, copy the text, and translate in your different languages, whether it is in Swahili. But you know, when you go on that platform, you can change the language button on it because that festival platform and all our platforms are originally in Kiswahili. So when you go there, you just have to press the language button at the top right hand, and then you choose the language, whether it's a Cantonese language, Spanish, Portuguese, whatever language, because we know all this language, our people are operating in these communities. If they cannot speak English, they speak Portuguese, they speak Spanish, they speak Italian, they speak Swahili on the continent, they speak other language, Chui in Ghana. If you go there, that website is translated in all the languages. So click on the language button. You can read the information in your language. It might not be one-on-one translated, but at least you have the idea. Whether it's French, just click it, you will see. Okay? So when we talk about language as our culture, of course, the language of communication where our people are operating it, we have to give them that facility to be able to celebrate the African culture in their language of understanding. While we are pushing forward the agenda of Swahili or other unique like Patois languages to be our main cultural communication languages, we should not forget that we have our children in Germany that are born in Germany that are Germans that don't speak even English, they speak only German. And so these are the generations. I know all of you would like, why don't you teach your people that I've already told you that the migrant community in Germany are hustlers. To hustle, take their responsibility, contribute to that country by paying taxes in Germany, and then supporting you, the communities, whether it is their families or their local village communities or projects on those communities. Hey, there is no diaspora community out of the continent that does not think about the suffering and the challenges of the African continent. That's why you, the Africans that have the privilege on the continent, have to support diaspora projects. Don't begin to embrace that beggar image that has been belabeled on you as a continent of beggars. We have rich, super rich African countries and governments and industries and companies and individuals, billionaires, millionaires, rich people in spirit, in talents and everything on the continent more than in the diaspora. So the 100 levy that we're going to levy to all Pan-African organizations on the continent is to support initiatives like us in the diaspora that are struggling, because we will not meet the grant requirements that is being imposed out here or that are being circulated for such activities. Number two, you need to attend. How do you attend? You need a visa. How do you get a visa when you don't have a passport? You need a passport. And your passport has to be valid. It means you might have a passport, but you go and look at your passport. It's already, it's a non-valid passport. It expired years ago. And then you wake up in the morning, oh, Dr. Tatah, Africa Festival team, how can I be a participant? Of course, you can be a participant, but if you don't have a passport that is valid, you cannot. And when you have a passport that is valid and you don't have a visa, that gives you the possibility to travel to Germany, particularly the Schengen visa, that gives you the possibility as a business person to travel, or as a tourist or a visitor to travel the 45 countries in the Schengen region. Okay. Americans, they will not have a problem because Americans, I mean, you know them. They go to every other country, whether you like it or not. Okay. So there is not, but if you are an American or a group or a cultural organization and you don't even have a passport, and you don't, because there was no need for you to have a passport, or your passport is not valid, then you cannot attend. So global meetings, particularly the International Africa Festival, Tübingen, you need to have access to travel. And your access to travel is having a passport that is valid. And in that passport, you will need a visa. But now to get the visa, that's not the problem. To get a visa, you need an invitation letter from the organizers. In this case, the International Africa Festival Tübingen is a project of the Africa We Want non-profit organization. And so the International Africa Festival is a non-profit project ever since we created. I've been telling you the story for the past 2 hours. How we supported, my family and I, and the community, and the media, and Africans, and volunteers supported this festival with all their might to keep it, particularly last year. None of us get a paycheck. Nobody is asking for a payment. Africans are, we have brought the energy of that platform that has given Africans in Germany the pride of becoming an African. And so they travel at their individual cost to come to Tübingen each year. Our traders, if you read on our platform on the website, testimonies of the traders and our vendors, they say, yes, we go to other events to sell and make money for with our businesses, but we come to International Africa Festival Tübingen to celebrate the African culture. So it's not about making money. And that's why they come. Most of them say, we don't make money, but we don't even want to. It's not that we don't want to make, we want to make money, but our primary objective, even when we don't make money through our sales, is that feeling that you get at International Africa Festival that you will not get any way. It is just unique because of the visionaries and the purpose and the intention behind this festival. And people wonder why even the many challenges. We've had 3 big challenges with the festival due to 3 huge tornadoes. I mean, you African Americans, you understand when I talk about a tornado, you know what it is. Tornadoes that have blown down that festival 3 times. 2011, it was brought down to ground zero. And you can imagine the damages. And we had a damage of more than 40,000 to 60,000 euros. And that was the 2nd edition in 2011. And you understand anything that is nature oriented, no insurance would cover that. We do understand that, isn't it? And the International Africa Festival, Tübingen, has had to deal with 3 of those unique tornadoes. Even last year, we had a small one and scatter tent there, scatter tent there, just around 10 minutes, but a difficult one. And we've always have those kind of weather caprices because it's an open air, it's a village full of nature, and the wind you can never control, or the rain or whatever, or the storms. That is the main challenge that we've been having with our festival. Of course, in the beginning, you know, we did some kind of an entry policy, and that we, you know, to cover the expenses and also to control the population. We usually would fence it and take a €5 entry fee, which was nothing, was a donation at the gate as compared to the projects and the programs that we offered there. All right. But from this year, we say, no, our culture, it's a barrier free. We always did it in the beginning, right? That's how we celebrate the African culture. But if we put a gate or we put those barriers, it's just to control, to be able to regulate this the audience and the security purpose. But even this year, we're not even sure to have that gate or all those kind of big stages, because that's not the African culture of communication. Everything we do with an intention to teach, to empower ourselves, and doing our own thing. Okay. Yeah, so outdooring has been one of the challenges of the festivals, whether in the continent or on the continent or in the diaspora. Most organizers or African organizers or organizers of such events can tell you how much they suffer and they labor for it. But that's why I'm telling you, we have been personally touched and affected this event. Why? Because when we have setbacks like that, that will cost us 100,000, 200,000 as a loss, we would go back into our shells, my family and I, try to mobilize the continent, not the continent, I mean the community, ask for support in our individual way, put our individual earnings and salary to be able to host the coming years. Because otherwise, partners that will supply you all those infrastructures would not be able, if you don't pay them. Most of them don't understand what weather is. Most of them don't have the spiritual connection that we have. And most of them is just about making their money to survive. And that is why we're breaking down all. It's a lot of work. So you can imagine what kind of energy that we have particularly sitting here every day hosting the Pan-African Daily TV, organizing such a mega global global event. That is the power that you have. It is not only about me. You yourself can do it. There is a study that has shown that even when we live our lives, we do not use even 30% of our potentials as human beings. 30% of our potentials is not used by the time we live our whole life. So doing all these things is a matter of passion and interest. I could have stopped this program now, but I see that there are more than 400 of you watching. And because you're interested in what I'm teaching or I'm explaining here or I'm mentoring here about why you must intentionally attend the 16th International Africa Diaspora Cultural Festival in Tübingen, Germany. And why, if you cannot attend, you must support. And why, if whether you have the capacity or not, you have to be an ambassador to share the flyers, to mobilize your community, raise donations, and send it to us in person, or transfer it to us to be able to do the work on the ground. Because it is a collective vision, and that festival is not owned by Susan or Sonjo Tatah. It is owned by the continent, and it's a legacy for the diaspora and the children that we have here. It is not my property. It is not the property of my husband. It's not the property of my children. It is the property of the continent. Every platforms that we are building is as a legacy for the children and the future. Even the Pan-African Daily, I told you many years as we started. Tomorrow, I will not be sitting here. Tomorrow, our children, our youth, our people will take over, and it's a legacy. Every platform that you as an African, businesses or anything that you are building, if you cannot empower the youth and the next generation to take over, then it's your private initiative that is centered all around you. And there's nothing wrong in it. Today, we have institutions in Germany, particularly, they will tell you establishments that are existing since the 1800s, since the 1400s. Do you think it is the people that created that are still doing it? Maybe even the founders, that even their legacy is not even a part, but it is a continuity. African culture has been existing for 1,000 years. It is the indigenous culture of our people, of our great ancestors, of our parents, of our forefathers. But we don't see those institutions anywhere in Europe, in the diaspora, anywhere that has the 400,000 years of existence. We are thankful and we are lucky, we are blessed, we are honored that only the African culture is the unique institution that will never be erased, that will never be distorted in any form since thousands of years. And so if you are a cultural activist, or you are a child, a daughter, a son, an indigenous or an indigene coming from this continent you call Africa motherland, and you do any business or you do anything or you operate in the name of this continent, and you don't promote, you don't sacrifice, you don't volunteer, you don't build a legacy for it, I'm so sorry. Think about it and be in Tübingen. Think about it. Register your organizations. Think about it. Send your donation. Send representative of your individual communities to represent. I know our people on the continent would have the challenge because they will be denied visas. But I'm calling on all the African diplomatic missions on the continent of Africa. I already wrote letters to you each year to inform you about this global meeting in Germany For the past 20 years, all of you, you have my letters explaining, inviting even you, and inviting you to open up the possibilities for our people to attend this global meeting. You have my letters in your embassies, German embassies on the continent. You have my letters, Schengen embassies that could give visas to our people to attend. You have my invitation all the time. Each year I write to you that it is a human right for Africans to celebrate their culture. It is a human right for friends and partners of African Germans to celebrate the African culture and different cultures. It's just a basic human right. So please, we are calling upon you again. Those of you that are watching me, that are listening to me, or that will share this video, we are a partner. We are partnering and collaborating on this space called Earth. If you look at our history, Germany and Africa has the longest history since 1884. Germany has a long history to the continent of Africa since 1884, even before other countries. And they have been doing business together, partnering, developmental corporations in every sector since that time immemorial. So the African community in Germany is also offering this platform. We've been doing it. It is the only platform that has access to all other countries, irrespective of who you are, your ideology. Nobody is stopped from getting access or exhibiting or coming to the platform in Germany because of your status, your gender, or whatever thing. Nobody. Because first of all, the population of us in Germany is few. So it is not an African festival or African space because only us Africans on the continent. Yeah, but it is the African diaspora community that is inviting all the cultures and community to celebrate our culture with us. Does it make sense? There's a difference between you as an organizer inviting other people to celebrate with you. And there's a difference between you just doing an event and then begging people to be a part. There is a difference, and that's why we carefully select who are exhibiting with us. That is the reason why we carefully take into consideration what your products are. Do your products reflect the African culture? We don't want any African look-alike products that are made as copy fake products in China market or in other communities. The African on the continent, African diaspora had this talent and the skills to create these businesses, and you should support. So come to the Africa Festival in Tübingen, be ready to shop as much as you can from the African diasporas, from the migrant communities, from Africans on the continent that are bringing made in Africa products by them, whether it's a carving, whether it's a cultural product or it's a fabric or whatever. We also have a huge sector where we do braids. That's why I love some of our European visitors. They love the African look, their braid, their cornrows, they braid it for their children, particularly the Afro-German community. I already explained it to you in the beginning, who they are. They want to give that identity to their children that were born in Germany from an African parent, but that don't know their roots. And so they will have to come, they buy an African fabric, or they buy a cornrow, or they do their hair, they eat African food, they celebrate because they belong. They are part of this culture. And so we give access. And that's why we need only original things. Of course, we have international exhibitors. So for me, it's not because it must be an African that looks like me that would be, because Africans that look like me and come with products that are not originally made, we don't take you. We don't want you to spoil the African market. African is a trademark. Africa alone is a brand. And you as an African is a product of that brand. And it's a joy, it's a pride, it's a prestige to be African. Look at our children in the diaspora. When I travel to America, I'm so proud. Hip hop culture is so deeply rooted. Please bring your talent to Germany. The hip hop culture it's also a culture it's an African culture. Our jazz culture, you know, our slow, our blues, our R&B culture, our rock culture. Come on, give me a break. Music connects, okay? So it's not only about Afrobeat. Afrobeat is a combination of the beats and original beats. So you have rock, you have pop, you have everything in it. All right? So we need you. We're inviting you. Cooperatives, businesses, organizations, initiatives, private individuals, content creators. I have a message for you. And I'll be giving this message bit by bit so that you can swallow. So that's the story. And I've told you, you want to come, you need to get, if you are not in Germany, you are not in Europe, you are not in the diaspora, if you need a visa, you must have a valid passport. You must even have a passport to start with. And the passport has to be valid. And that passport has to have a visa. If it needs it, if your country requires that you have a visa, please reach out to us. We're going to give you an invitation letter for you to attend. But we are not just going to share the invitation letter like a pizza that you just order and then you command the deliver and you pay the price. No. There are criteria for you to get an invitation letter to be a participant or a trader or a vendor or an exhibitor. All those criteria are on our website. And I'll be giving it to you step by step. So this year is dedicated to the African culture worldwide. Our professors are teaching only on the origin. If you see, the whole year we've been talking only about agriculture because that's the essence of our culture. And so now all our platforms have to be about the African culture. But if you don't know what an African culture is as an African, you need to begin to get lectures. You need to follow me every day on the Pan-African Daily TV and our platforms. And I'll be showing you all the elements, the components that is truly African culture. And this is to enable you to also build your own platforms where you are. Cultural festivals in this community, yeah? You have to build small, but small cultural events, whether they are conference, whether they are workshops, whether they are cultural festivals. But if you don't have the intention, look at Kwanzaa. We're celebrating Kwanzaa every year now worldwide because of the culture that it represents. Kwanzaa is our African cultural organization, unique, image festival, call it what, platform that was initiated more than 60 years ago. Look at what they celebrate: libations, cultural ethics, traditions. And if I tell you the organizers, the initiators are diasporans, you will not believe. On the continent, we celebrate festivals. Most of them have particularities that don't look African. It's just because it's on the African continent. So my book is coming up about the African culture, but also about how to organize African cultures. I cannot write a book. Where would I start from? These are just tips tips that I give in a PDF, or you that are organizing any event on on the culture of Africa, or as African, with the focus of Africa to promote and brand the continent, you can get those tips. How we did it, how we survived in Germany for 20 plus years, and now we're even moving up to a global platform. Okay? But we want to thank the German community, the German government. We want to thank Germany for opening up its doors. Germans, yes, every country or nation has its own history. But when it comes to this, in terms of culture, when it comes to support, to attend African cultural platforms, the first community that does that is the German community in Germany. Honestly speaking, people that love African fabrics, African food. I don't, we take it as it's an advantage because we're Africans. Germans do it with a passion. Okay. So that's why even most African festivals are patchwork festivals that are organized either by Africans themselves or Germans themselves, or a kind of a mixed German African. Because they love the African culture. They have a mission, they have a vision. But of course, some are, the difference is how they represent. Just organizing the African culture without representing the true value of African festivals is a mess, and that has to stop. But if they need our advice on how to originally do it, our organization is known and famous for that. All right. So we have some kind of cultural food that we don't allow at the festival, not because we don't like your food, but because it's not an African food. And to close it up, even though I see all of us watching in our numbers, but I just have to close up because tomorrow I'll be coming live on all the days. Like I told you, I have a gift for you by the end of this month, and you will know that gift, you will see that gift. Okay. But my gift has always been the love for one another, for you, empowering you in your challenges, in your quest to do something for yourself as African, and to do something for our internal continent, for our international communities where they are. That's my gift and my purpose and my mission. And I use it in gratitude to the powers that be that create me to be on this space. I use it to serve. I use my gift, my talent, my mission to give back to the greatest continent that I came into this universe as a part of that. There's not much I can pay Africa for being a daughter, a queen of Africa. There's not much that I can show Africa than just being in that space to empower one of you that has the need and this fire of Africanness. Okay? We are giving back. So whether you are in Italy, Kojo, or you are in Spain, or you, Kofi Zuma, in America, you have said, or Patricia, you've said, African Americans don't need a visa to come. Yes, whether it's you, Cheryl, or Senovia, all of you, Wayne, all of us that are here, if you cannot make it because of other constraints, make your contribution. We're going to give you the right contact to make it, to contribute, that will come directly to support us. And giving you or giving ourselves the opportunity to be a sponsor, to contribute, is already giving you that essence of building a legacy together. Something that all of us, even though a few started, all of us can now join hands and build a legacy that will live for our future generations. So your contribution is a symbolic gesture, but you can give even more than that. A sponsorship package starts from $100,000, because you can imagine a festival like that is hosting thousands of people. The infrastructures, okay, the accommodations, everything that we do is for free. So you cannot attend, but you can donate. And you donating is your attendance. So we call that your participation fee. Whether it is virtually or face-to-face, is your participation fee for you to be in Tübingen. And you know you'll be doing justice to yourself. If you only call ourselves Africans without giving back to motherland, without appreciating our Africanness, without sharing gratitude to your forefathers, to your great-grandparents that fought to keep that culture and that identity. So your donation is a libation. Your donation is your food that you've given, that I've also cooked my own food. Dr. Tatah, take $100 and cook food and to receive our brothers and sisters. Dr. Tatah, take $100 and pay for the accommodation of our brothers and sisters that will be coming from the continent. Dr. Tatah, take this $100 and pay for their visa recommendation. Dr. Tatah, take this and pay for the pickup, for the logistics that will be picking them from the different airports. Dr. Tatah, take this and cook food that will be able to sell or generate and give and host our delegations that will be coming. If it was my private business, I will not need your engagement. I did it. My husband and I and our community in Germany, we've been doing it for 22 years without asking, because we wanted to prove a point that charity begins at home, that I have to do something first before I invite you. So it's the spirit of Africa. Do it first, and they show us the evidence of your engagement. Then we will know you are the leaders of Africa. But I also want to thank a lot of you that are saying, Dr. Susan Tatah has to be the Africa Union chairperson. Yes, why not? But you know what? I love the community work. I'm a servant. I love serving. I don't like institutions that will. But if I can influence the change on the continent, yes, I will. But you know what? I just love us. And I believe the Africa Union chair and the Africa Union Secretariat is you and me. It is not a building in Ethiopia. It is not a one person that is sitting there. The ambassadors and the African Union and the representative of the 54 African are you, the Africans in the diaspora and on the continent. This is you that I lay all my allegiance in collaboration and also supporting the leadership in their challenges and whatever they're doing. And that's why you call me as your youth leader. As the leader that at every time my phone rings, Mama, how can we do this? Oh, we are calling from this community. We have a challenge in this. How can we do this? Please, can you do this? Yes. That's what we love doing. That's why we are already sitting at that AU, at that powerhouse, and contributing in our own modest way. I want to thank you. It's already 2.5. Like I said, you see, we are running around doing things. In the diaspora, we've gained, I think, a 1 hour, and in Europe, no, on the continent, no, in Germany, no. All right. So I don't expect everyone on the continent to still be live, even though I see a lot of you still watching from the continent here. That is how much your heart beats for Africa. That is how much you're proud of being an African. That is how much engaged and how much committed and how much loyal. That's the allegiance that you are paying to you, belonging to this continent as an indigenous. It is a pride. We have to sacrifice. Germans sacrifice every year in every sector. They call it a social year. I think Americans also do it. Just for institutions that promote the system and the culture. So if you're studying in Germany as a German, whether you must be a volunteer for 1 year for the country. You volunteer your time. Before you study in the university, you volunteer 1 year. You volunteer in the military. You volunteer in all these social It is compulsory. It is mandatory. They've been doing it for thousands of years. And this system I am implementing on the continent of Africa. We all have to volunteer and do something for Mother Africa without having to call it a price, without having to collect money for. You have to volunteer as an artist to be in Tübingen at your own cost. We've had it. We've had artists. Last year we have the Pan-African poet, Obed Dubé, paid, look for sponsors in his village and his community in Zimbabwe. We sent him an invitation letter, paid for his accommodation, paid for his visa, his insurance and everything, and he came. For the first time, he traveled out of his continent. He came to Tübingen and he shared his poetry. And I gave him the responsibility to moderate. And he moderated. He was not afraid of the public, of the community, of being in Europe for the first time. He made it out of his own pocket. He looked for his sponsors. They paid his ticket, and we took care of the other or other responsibilities. That is what we are calling ambassadors of African culture. This year, we already have volunteers that are artists, comedians. Starting first, like they say, charity begins at home. Starting from my own country, my heritage, Cameroon. We have a young artist called for the culture, Witty. I've already said I'll be posting all their images here. But if you go to the to the International Africa Festival website, you will see them there already. This is a youth that is just dying to celebrate the African culture. And he started doing music promoting the culture. And this year he wrote to me and said, Dr. Tatah, I want to be there. I don't need any support. I don't need any fees for you. I want to be there. If you can only give me an invitation letter and support me to be there, I will be there to showcase our culture. We also have one famous Cameroonian comedian. They call her Auntie because it's a he, but playing a gender role of Auntie Felicia. These are all youths. He posted and said, Dr. Tatah, I'm your biggest fan. I call you mother because you have changed our mentality a lot with your programs and your scholars on Pan-African Daily. I want to be in Tübingen to support. I'll bring my comedy, but I can also dance and I can also moderate. And I said, why not? We have the band called Dr. Slay. It's a reggae band, root reggae, and they've been following and collaborating with our brothers and siblings in Jamaica. And they say, we want to be at the festival. Dr. Slay is the leader. He's always been there anyway. But this year, particularly for the culture, he said, we are there. We don't need any fees. But you can remember for the past 23 editions, we have paid artist fee, logistic, hotels, accommodation. Can you imagine when I tell you we put more than 2 billion for 20 years? This is how much jobs we have created. Logistic companies in Germany that we took stage, all this crazy big stage for them. And you can imagine each stage we pay at least 7,000, 8,000, 10,000 to up to 15,000 for 4 days. Okay? For 20 years is how much? How many people that we've created jobs is enormous. So most of you do it. But because somebody doesn't teach you that you're already doing it by creating jobs for your siblings, for your talents to showcase your culture and paying with your blood and your money, your hard-earned money, your salaries even, you would think you're not doing anything great for Africa. You would not think that you make Africa great. But I'm here as a testimonial to show you what my platform has been doing in Germany for the past 25 years. And from this time, the Pan-African Daily and all our platforms, I'll be educating you only on that. And you will see it for yourself. The purpose for me doing it is to make you understand that you are great and that you can change your continent. You can change your lives as Africans. You can make the change that you want to see tomorrow. Whether you're contributing to humanity through your culture, or you're contributing through your businesses or through your brands, you are contributing to something that makes Africa great. Whether it's your initiatives, your cooperatives, or whatever. But for us to go to move with the spirit of power in unity, like we started in Detroit, we moved in New York this year, and all was about the power in unity. And we are taking it down to Europe, in Germany, in Tübingen in June. It's the support. So even those that are saying ticket, yes, if your ticket is $100, then you have been a part. This is how collectively we make Africa great. This is how we make Africa great through the African culture. You see me sit here 2, 4, 5 hours. If it is about these cultural things, my people, if it is about African culture, if it is about the African diaspora, if it is about our Africanness, if it is about our challenges, if it is about empowering us, if it is about inspiring us, motivating us, pushing us, I can stay here for 10 hours non-stop, not even drink water. Yes. Because that's the mission of my ancestors, of my forefathers. And that's why they give me that energy and that power. I can stay for 10 hours here. I have the youths that write to me every day, Dr. Tatah, 3 hours on the show, or even visitor, 3 hours. And you see how our audience, our scholars, our teachers, our educators, when I talked about Pan-African Daily TV Academy, these are the teachers. Do you see them complain when they come here about time? Because people that are called and chosen and are missionaries on their mission don't get tired. They are compensated by the powers that be. So yes, we are spirit, remember, having a human experience in this physical, borrowed body, substance that we are in. But we are spirit, as we know, having a human experience. So for me, I don't even say we have a human experience. We a spirit that are brought back each generation for a purpose and a mission. So identify yourself and you see the spirits connect. I am coming to talk to you global Pan-Africanists and Africans worldwide because you connect in my space. You connect in my kingdom, in my spirituality. You belong to Mother. That's why I give you, I open up the gate, I facilitate. Take it as an opportunity. Take it as a privilege. Take it as an opportunity to give back, to build structures and legacies that will live for our generation. And so you begin to see in some decades to come, International Africa Festival Tübingen sings thousands of years ago. Today we're saying International Africa Festival Tübingen established since 2007. Now, but look at the generations that will come. So even you in your diaspora communities, you've been doing a lot of marvelous job to make Africa great. But because somebody say, oh, you are ego, or you are doing business because you ask for people to pay, or because you collect get fee, or because you do this, and they make you feel guilty as if you're just, molesting, or you're just using your capacities as an African. The spirit that gave you the know-how and the power to do it, they put you there for that purpose. Continue to do it. In as much as you're not exploiting your people, in as much as you're not doing anything intentional, in as much as you're not selling your culture, in as much as you're not a sellout. And if you are, it's your business. You pay. You know, the justice of my art is going to reckon with you. So be intentional. Be intentional about all the projects that you are doing for humanity. Because it's not only about Africa, Africa is humanity. Africa is the cradle, it's the mother. So if you do it to Africa, you do it to humanity. And war betides you because you would reckon, you would pay here in this space, not even after. Here, you would see it. Judgment, justice will be brought to you. So thank you so very much. Thank you. Now you see, even if I don't come live every time, you understand why it takes me a while. Not that I'm just lazy. My senior executive coordinator, Lawrence, called me this morning from St. Martin's Islands and said, Doctor, what is happening? I said, Lawrence, I'm fine. Oh, I just wanted to know whether you're fine, but I know that was not the reason. So, doctor, when is the young executive? This is Zenobia asked. My senior executive leader in the diaspora, Cheryl asked. Right? Yes, because we find out from each other when we don't hear from each other. It's not only about the work. And I thank most thousands of you that would always drop a message. Dr. Tatah, are you okay? When you don't see me in our house, in our family compound here on the Pan-African Daily, when you don't see me in the village, like I'm not seeing Brother Ernest Parker. I don't know whether I missed him here. It is our duty to connect and find out if we are okay, if each and every one of us is fine. It's our responsibility, okay, to find out. Maybe our ancestors call us in a kind of a way in between, and we didn't have time to say goodbye. But if you reach out and you find out from me, then you will just understand. Or maybe if you call, my phone is not answerable again, then you say, oh, okay. So they call her home for another purpose, and now I know. So you see, call and find out. And that's also going to be a business for you, Pan-African. Anyone that is motivated, do a calling find out business for Africans. Okay? Thank you, Kofi, for always saying, yes, we're going to have a match at the Africa Festival. We have most families that have met, most husbands that have met their wives, have met them on the platform in Africa Festival Tübingen. And I will show you the children that belong to them. And we call them all our Africa Festival children because these children, the parents met at the Africa Festival in Tübingen, connected, got married, and had them. They met at the global village, the Pan-African Global Village in Tübingen. Yes? And we've had a lot of testimonies of friends that have never seen themselves for 40 years. I'm talking about Germans. German friends in Tübingen that studied and they only had to meet at the Africa Festival in Tübingen. I cannot tell you how many flowers and postcards and gift cards that we get after every festival in our post box. Germans, other cultures, Africans, thank other cultures that are interested in Africa to celebrate with us, how much they thank us. All right. So yes, we are great. We're making Africa great with our platforms. And 16th International Africa Festival Tübingen is going to be our topics. And we're going to be inviting guest speakers. If you know your one, if culture, and culture should be your topic, whether it's your business or anything, your designs, your collections, like we say, right? One of our biggest sister, she's called Diana Magesa. I just posted. She came as a fashionist, a designer. It's a village woman like me, but has been on all global fashion week, Paris Fashion Week, New York Fashion Week. She's in Canada Fashion Week. But then all those organizations are not African organized organizations. Why do they go and pick them from the villages in Africa? to bring the talents on the global platform. And these are organizations and platforms that we look at them and like, whoa, these are. But Diana wrote to me and said, sister, I didn't hear about you, but I saw the bloggers in East Africa last year talking about International Africa Festival Tübingen, and I saw your message to our ambassadors. Can you give me an opportunity to present my designs, my collection 2022 on that global platform? And I looked at her. I said, yes, Diana, send me your concept. I did not know that this goddess is empowering other communities apart from her own community. And she brought a collection called Blue Economy. You needed to have been there. Go to our website. You will just see just an image of it, but the collection, and we are updating her own personal page on the homepage because she is going around European communities, and she gave the message in Tübingen last year. Please keep your plastic in your communities. Don't bring it to our oceans on the continent. They are poisonous. They destroy our fish. They kill us. They bring us diseases. And so what Diana Mangesa does, she picks only things, plastic, from these oceans. And like I told you, our waters don't swallow anything that don't belong to them. They send it back to you. And so she goes to all the shores of Zanzibar in Tanzania, because she's a Tanzanian, and collect these plastics, bottles, all the dead fishes, dry them, make collections of all these natural disasters and catastrophes that have been brought to our continent by all these European or Western or companies, even on the continent, that are destroying the waters with this plastic. Diana made a 30-piece collection, brought it to Tübingen, paid her ticket and her assistant, hotel and accommodation. Even though she arrived on Sunday at the closing date of the festival because of challenges that with their visas, she made it 2 days to Tübingen and presented that collection and gave out that message. That is what we're talking about. It is not just attending. What do you have as a project to change the world for Africa? These are mammoth projects. If Diana wrote even to United Nations or to World Health Organization or this, they would pump millions in her organization. Diana said, no, I cannot take money from the same people that I'm addressing. And she built a community group, and they started doing handmade things, teach women, girls how to sew, single women, and she has a whole community. Diana brought a huge bag that we had to fight with the tax institution in Germany just to remove those package, that luggage. And that luggage came after the festival was closed, just because of this kind of regulations, you know, how to ship your goods and stuff like that. They have to get some international stuff. And she didn't know. And I didn't know that she was bringing that kind of package. So, but we struggled and we did it. And those goods that she brought from her community are still in Tübingen in our warehouse. So we will exhibit it again. That's why I'm calling on you, the diaspora. You are looking for opportunities on the continent. Connections, families, businesses. Come to International Africa Festival Tübingen, Germany. Germans and other cultures fly out from China and everywhere to come and buy indigenous, original African goods made by Africans on the continent. What about us in the diaspora? It is the biggest platform for economy, for businesses. That's why we say our culture. Our culture doesn't only say we dance. That's music, and the festival is just a part. But it is an international platform for African intelligence. If you are not big enough, you cannot be in Tübingen. If your vision is not big enough, if your mission is not so big enough, you can't. Tübingen cannot accommodate you. But how big is your mission and how big are you? It is the mission of promoting Africa and yourself. At the Happy Conference Black Excellence, we saw powerful movies by Amadeus Christ. And I went to him and I said, my brother, see how my heart is bleeding, because this information that you're giving to hundreds of people in this room imagine you give it to thousands of people on the continent and in the diaspora. So yes, you filmmakers, business people with brands, Pan-African brands, African brands, you that have the passion for Africa and have brands that promote Africans to be able to have money in their pockets, to feed their families, to develop their communities, you're the one I'm looking for. If you cannot come, send a representative. If you cannot come, send your goods, send your stand space money. We would look for for volunteers to represent your organization and you. You must not be there in person if you cannot make it, but we can represent you. The organization in Germany is paying a warehouse every year just to keep products and just to keep the remaining products or vendors that are coming from the continent that cannot take it back, and we keep it in this warehouse. And for the past years, they have not been paying us for that warehouse. The organization pay it. And who is the organization? It's my family and supporters. So even if you have your goods and your samples to be at the Africa Business Forum or at the Cultural Forum or as an exhibit, you don't need to bring a whole container. But you that have products, bring the quantity you can, knowing that even if you don't take it back for next year, we have a lager and a warehouse where you can support and put your products in it to exhibit every year. That's why we call it, is it an international meeting every year? So you bring your products this year. If you have new products, you have to bring it next year, but you can keep those products and to be able to market them every year. Okay? For this year, we are calling on only 100 vendors in the African cultural market because we want to keep the market authentic and original. And then the others will just be the exhibition where you bring just your samples. And the stand space and prices are cheap because we open it to us. People have to pay tickets, they have to pay hotels, they have to get logistics, and most of that to pay a stand space again is challenging. But imagine you are hosting, meeting contacts, connecting, building the relationship, having access to the continent for 4 days in a European space, and you can pay $300 to $400 to $500 for 400 for a space for you. That is peanut. And like I said, that is a charity that we are doing. So thank you, my people. We connect again. I'm not very sure. Tomorrow, I'm going to have a guest. It's our brother. You know him on the Black TV Education. You know our brother, Elder Rodney. Elder Rodney is Elder is going to be on the platform tomorrow. And he has some very good news and messages for you. They brought down his platforms and stuff. So most of you that have been texting, oh, I need his contact and stuff, is because his platform was brought down, but he's now back. Whatever reasons, I don't know. So he's going to be our guest for this Tuesday, and just to share with us again the knowledge that this brother, Black Education TV, you know him, that is pouring on our platform. So I see you tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard, or I think now it's 3 p.m. I don't know. Actually, but anytime you hear our jingle, you should be on live with us. So thank you so very much. And I appreciate you and the thousands of comments that you have here, and even the hundreds that are still watching. I'm very sorry. Like I said, there's a lot of preparation. Thank you to our members that are connected here. Consider please joining our membership. And our membership is only for us hosting on our YouTube channel. Okay. But we would still come with application, with registration forms, with donation forms for you to support the international meeting at the 16th International Africa Diaspora Cultural Festival in Germany. Germans are waiting to receive you. The African community in Germany is ready to receive you. If you have any concerns or need, do not hesitate. But please check our website, download the flyer, share it on your platforms, and start hosting your own individual talks on this event that is coming on your private Facebook pages and Instagram. Thank you very much. May the God of Africa, the ancestors, the Most High, the God of creation and nature bless you. May they comfort you. May they provide for you and your families. May they watch over you. May the spirits and the powers that be continue to engage you in your different responsibilities as we move Africa and make Africa great. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And we see us again tomorrow. Bye-bye. You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tatah. The Africa we want: unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa.